Hello, my dearest confidant. I had something come up on my Facebook profile, a memory about competition, and I know we've talked about it before, but I want to talk about it in a different aspect. Usually when you think about competition, you think about jobs or sports, and there's so much more competitiveness that's out there that's unnecessary, that is taking away from your bigger picture that you may or may not be aware of. And I just want to take a few moments today to just talk about the other levels of competition in your life that you may or may not realize that you are showcasing competitiveness. And while competitiveness in and of itself isn't bad, in reality, the only one that we should be competing with is ourself. Our outdated beliefs, our conditioning, our programming, the things that we want to change about ourselves, that we want to better about ourselves. That's when competition is most advantageous to you. But the type of competition I'd like to talk about today is really indicative of what's going on in our society as a whole. And maybe it's calmed down a little bit, maybe it's about to ramp up. I'm not really sure at this point. But again, remember, we have to take a few steps back in order to spring us forward. But the competition I want to talk about today is the competition of separation of religious beliefs or political beliefs or other things of that nature, that we tend to not even realize that we are saying we are better than when we impose our beliefs on others. It's one thing to say something in your own social media presence, right? Because you're not forcing anyone to believe what you believe. But when we go onto other people's social media or in person to their homes, or they invite us to theirs or we go to theirs, invite us to theirs or they come to ours, when we are set in our ideological ways and we are trying to force those opinions upon others, that's when we don't necessarily realize that we're competing, but we are. When we try to force ourselves on someone else, we're saying, I'm better than you, and this is what you should do if you want to be elevated like me. And I'm not saying don't hold your beliefs. I'm saying be careful with how you speak about them. You can say all the things all the day long, right? But when you really showcase your actions, that's what you're telling people to believe. And it's really, there's a fine line, right? Because something that I've come to realize is that you can't isolate all of those people that have a different opinion than you from your life. It's not going to happen. They're going to show up at the grocery store. They're going to show up in restaurants. They're going to show up at your sporting events. They're going to show up at your children's programs. They're going to show up in your hobbies. They're going to be everywhere. And so you can't get away from them. And that's really something that I've learned in this period of isolation in my life. And even though I have been isolated, I've still been inundated with other people's thoughts and beliefs and programming and all of those things, right? Just being on social media. And what you can do is showcase yourself in a loving way. Showcase what it is that you want people to see and believe about your religion or your political beliefs or whatever, in a way that's welcoming. When we say, I'm better than you because my beliefs, I'm red or I'm blue or I'm independent or I'm liberal or I'm Catholic or I'm Buddhist or I'm this, what we're inherently saying is that this is the only right way. And God, Creator, Source, allowed us the freedom to choose. And here we are taking it back and saying, no, this is the only way. This is what God told me, so this is the only way. This is what, this celebrity told me, so this is the only way. And while that may be true for you, that's boxing yourself in. That's boxing in. That's containing. That's limiting, to think that we are the only one that has the answer, or our group is the only one that has the answer. And I find the most beauty and the most learning and the most wonderfulness in being able to appreciate people not about what they believe, but in what they do and who they are. There's real, true beauty out there. And we miss it because we compartmentalize what people believe into the box of who they are, and it dehumanizes them in a lot of instances, and it makes hate a lot easier to be spread. And I'm still working on, my boundaries, about what I will and won't allow into my life, being able to speak up for those things that I feel are important to me, and just say, hey, that's not for me, for the things that aren't. And I encourage you today to set your boundaries. You don't have to talk about it. It's a choice, right? But when you come in with curiosity, that's really where the most learning and growth is anyway. And so instead of coming in with a closed mindset, maybe come in with questions and see how much further that gets you. And maybe you'll learn something about that person that you didn't realize also applied to you. And we're more alike than we are different. And the only way to find those key components that bind us together besides our humanity is to be willing and open to have those conversations and question, and not just question others, but question ourselves. Really, really question yourself. Is this something that I would want my child to experience, that I would want my significant other to experience, my loved one to experience? The things that I'm saying and doing, do I want somebody else to have that put on them? And if the answer is no, then maybe it's time to reevaluate what it is that you find to be a belief that might be true or may not be true, or may only be true for you and not necessarily for the other person or persons involved. So it was heavy on my heart today to talk about that. I hope that you have learned something, and if not, that you are open to the information and that the seed has been planted and that it will grow when the time and the conditions are right. I love you, my dearest confidant. Until next time.